Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute, a Louisiana-based think tank. What did you do before that?
You know, I traveled around the country doing this kind of work in a whole bunch of other states.
See, I was going to say brush salesman.
That's right. That would be good. Or
and
vacuums.
that. Think tank, brush salesman.
That's right. Fits well.
Let's start with
the minimum wage.
Ooh.
The bill has passed in committee. It looks like it is now, I think, maybe headed to the Senate side. It would bump it up to $9 an hour from $7.25.
That's right.
What impact is that going to have on businesses and on the state?
Well, it has a huge impact. We just need to look at New York. I don't know if you follow this, but as you know, New York significantly increased its minimum wage.
almost doubled.
Almost doubled. And for the first time in decades, there are fewer restaurant jobs today than there were the year before. This is the impact of minimum wage. What happens when you raise the minimum wage? You make it harder for someone to get their first job. And you know what happens when someone doesn't get their first job? It's a lot harder to get a better job. And the minimum wage is a barrier to people getting that first job and being able to work their way up and raise a family.
Not to become too philosophical, but one of the tragedies of America, and perhaps not to lay it all at the education system, but sociologically speaking, is we are producing more and more and more people that think a minimum wage job is as good as they'll ever do.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We have to change. It's a cultural question at this point, and we have to help people understand what, I mean, it sounds nice, right? Let's help people earn a little more money. But it has a huge negative impact on people trying to get into the workforce. And look, let's be clear. There are 5,000 fewer people working today than there were in January of 2016 in the state of Louisiana.
Let's talk about that just a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
And we have had this conversation with, good heavens, Miss Doty Horton and Alan Seabaugh and John Kay from, we were just talking about Mr. John at Americans for Prosperity.
Absolutely.
And they all make the point, they all bring this up, that the American economy is booming. Unemployment, not only for everybody, but specifically minorities, is at an all-time low. And yet we here in Louisiana, seem to be behind the curve, don't we?
We sure are. And the numbers are just stark and getting worse. You know, I just looked at the numbers. The new employment figures came out from the federal government.
Saw that.
Yeah. And so not only do we have 5,000 fewer people working, we have 30,000 people have just left the workforce altogether.
And Shreveport has been hit hard.
Very hard.
We've lost, I think, 1,700 jobs in just 1 year.
It's stunning. And
But you have this bill by Senator Carter that I think it calls for a constitutional amendment, so we would vote on it.
Right.
What's wrong with that, Daniel? Let the people vote on it.
Well, sure, it sounds nice.
How many amendments do we have now? 265?
That's right.
Yes.
196, I think.
Seriously?
Is the total. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We have a little saying at the Pelican Institute that once we get to 200, that'll be the time we should rethink things.
Yeah.
You know,
But
that's
what's
right.
wrong with, let's let people vote. If it's going to cost jobs, it's on them if it costs jobs.
Well, yeah, look, it's this just means we have to do our work to educate people about what this really means and what the challenge is. If you put your cynical hat on, you might say this is just a ploy to be a voter turnout effort in a big election cycle. It's a challenging thing to look at, and this is a complicated issue with lots of factors to it. So great. If we're going to put it to a vote, well, we've got our work cut out for us. It's again, one does wonder, are these the kinds of issues that really ought to go in front of voters?
I'm that guy when it comes to talk about legislation. I really like gridlock. My sense is the less they do, the better. Yeah. The fewer laws legislators at any level make, the better, the less intrusion there is on my life. Is there a better example or a more horrible example of overregulation beaten someplace up more than Louisiana?
Oh, no, it is absolutely the example of everything not to do.
Was it you talking about that last week, or was I talking about it with somebody else? They were making the point of small business and how, I think it was you talking about like, God, you got to have a license to be a hairdresser, for heaven's sake.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We have one of the most onerous licensure regimes. And again, we talk about making it difficult to get your first job. Mm-hmm. Those occupational licenses make it really hard to get your first job. This is why we have a labor problem. If you talk to business owners and managers, they have jobs. But you have to be able to show up, you have to have a little experience, and you have to pass a drug test.
Senator Peacock, by the way, was the only one on this committee who voted against this minimum wage. Daniel, you've got your toe on the pulse down there in Baton Rouge, and I want to know.
It's going to, believe me, the queen of mixed metaphors.
Yeah, what is your toe stepping on right now? What's getting under your armpit?
Yeah. Boy, the mental images here are just going
on. We
all
can take
over.
a break and come back. No, go ahead. We got about a minute.
No, so look, here's some stuff coming up. We got to keep an eye on lawsuit abuse. This is this passed the House. This is Representative Talbot's bill.
You know what? Talk about that,
Yeah.
but at the same time, expound a little bit on the legislation that is in the process
Yeah.
and how far along we are. That folks say would lower insurance rates for Louisianans drastically,
Yes.
i.e. some degree of tort reform. But on the other hand, there's every lawyer, every personal injury attorney in the state is going, whoa, not such a good idea.
Yeah, that's right. Look, this does a few things. One, it lowers what we call the jury threshold. Right now, to get your case in front of a jury, it's a $50,000 threshold. There are 36 states that have no threshold altogether, and the next closest one is $15,000.
This one would lower it to 5, right?
It would lower it to 5, which would be far more in line with the rest of the country.
So if I have an accident at Kroger and it's a $5,000 lawsuit, I want a jury to hear it. I can have a jury hear it.
That's right. And
Oh my gosh.
Here's what happens now
So
is
explain how that lowers rates.
yeah, so the insurance companies right now, because the cost of dragging out that litigation and negotiation, what happens is the trial lawyers say, well, great, if you'd settle that for $49,000, we can get this done right now. Mm-hmm. Right? And so what happens is those payments from your insurance companies when the trial lawyers are suing your, by the way, trucking company or big rig that's coming down the road. Have you seen some billboards maybe that have,
maybe
have
a
a big
few,
rig on it?
uh-huh.
You know, what they're suing on these, they call them soft tissue injuries, which are very hard to prove, very hard to disprove. And so you get a plaintiff who says, yeah, I got hurt, I'm suffering harm. And they just, so if you're a trucking company or a commercial company, you're just getting sued every day. And so the insurance companies that cover that, the liability companies, so that translates, by the way, to higher insurance for all of us.